Mayor of the City of Canning. I welcome you all to this evening's meeting and declare the agenda briefing of Tuesday the 12th of March open at 6 p.m. We start, of course, by acknowledging the Whadjuk people, the traditional custodians of the land. We also pay our respects to their elders, both past and present. In accordance with City of Canning Policy CM 105, agenda briefings are conducted for the purpose of providing elected members with a forum to ask questions of the city's administration and to receive answers to those questions to assist informed decision-making by council at the next week's ordinary council meeting. Agenda briefings are not decision-making forums. Questions may be asked and answered, and there is to be no debate or discussion. Questions must be specifically relevant to the item being discussed. Elected members and employees must disclose any financial proximity or partiality interest they have in an item to be discussed and declare the nature of that interest at the commencement of the briefing or at the latest when the item is about to be discussed. If a member of this council or an employee has a financial proximity or partiality interest in a matter arising during discussion, the nature of that interest must be disclosed as soon as possible after the matter has been raised. Individuals disclosing an interest other than a partiality interest must not participate in that part of a meeting relating to their interest and must leave the meeting whilst the item is being discussed. And agenda meetings are public meetings, and any information provided to the meeting by attendees may be publicly accessible. May I ask everyone here this evening to please make sure, including our elected members, to please make sure that your mobile phones are turned off for the duration of the meeting. This meeting is also being live streamed via the city's YouTube channel. Now, you might be wondering why most of us are wearing black tonight, or some semblance of black, and I apologise to those who are looking at me in my bow tie tonight, especially Councillor Kunza, and probably having a little bit of PTSD seeing a bow tie back up here in the chair, but there's good reason for it, and that is because every month we champion a charity event that has been put together and pulled together by Councillor Paul Tuchek. Councillor Tuchek, can you tell the public and the thousands of people at home watching from every corner of the globe exactly why it is that tonight the City of Canning Council are wearing crazy socks and also an item of black?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, tonight is about the odd socks, which you can't actually see tonight, but that is for Down syndrome, a bit of a forgotten charity, but it is to do with their special, unique personality. So, and also wearing black is for the black cockatoos, the conservation of the black cockatoos, which is recommended by Ben. So, very good charity.
Well done, Councillor Tuchek, and congratulations to you all. Thank you to staff. Also, staff and our council have been really supportive of the initiative, so I'd like to thank you all, probably except for Warren Bowe here tonight. I'm not sure. Oh, you've got a black watch on. Okay, well, that's getting pretty close. And also, I just acknowledge Councillor Kunza's long association for many years as a volunteer out at Carrican up in the foothills of Perth, working with to conserve and protect species of threatened black cockatoos. Well done to everyone. We move on to item 2, attendances. I'm very pleased to say the entire council is in attendance today, so thank you. Approved leave of absence. Councillor Tuchek has requested a leave of absence for the period of the 28th of May to the 25th of June 2004, and the leave of absence will be listed in the ordinary council meeting papers. Disclosure of interest. CEO, have we had any disclosures made tonight by elected members?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've received no disclosures of interest for tonight's meeting.
Thank you. We'll move along then to item 4, question time for the public. Responses to previous questions taken on notice. There are none this evening. Can I just remind you all the time set aside for public questions is 15 minutes, which may be extended if necessary, and questions asked tonight must relate to items listed on the agenda papers for this evening's meeting. For recording purposes, if you do come up to ask a question, please state your name and address and then proceed to ask your question. We'll do our very best to provide you with an answer tonight. And if an answer cannot be provided, we'll take your question on notice and we'll provide a written answer, a formal response to that question in due course. So I declare public question time open now at 4 minutes past 6 p.m. I do have a question here from Miss Karen Kralapa from Queen's Park. Would you like to step forward? Hello, how are you? Would you like to step forward or just get the staff to put the microphone on there for you? There it is, it's on. Please introduce yourself to the council and go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, is it on? Yes, my name is Karin Kralupa. I live in 47 Reginald Street, Queen's Park. And I handed in 3 questions. The first one, I think I've mentioned to you already a couple of years ago, that we're really worried about the trees on our verges, on our road verges. And first of all, that the ones which were planted are not really looked after quite often, especially my neighbor. She's walking her dog, and she quite often has to straighten up trees which have fallen over, trees which have been vandalized, broken off. She tries to put them up right again. But I suppose, according to your laws here, or law or whatever, the trees on the verges and the management responsibility is that of the city. So why are not the trees better looked after, and why don't we get more trees?
I'll ask Director Bowe to address that. And I do remember we had a conversation about that a few years ago.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sure
right.
I was door knocking in your area. You've got a beautiful native garden.
Yeah, you're right.
You're right, it's beautiful.
Yes, it's right.
Director Bowe.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. First and foremost, Mrs Kralupa, our staff would be more than happy to speak with you directly and identify the specific trees in the streets that you're concerned about. But the city aims to plant as many trees each year as our resources permit. Last year we planted over 3,000, and trees are spaced proportionally. Your question also talks to the spacing of the trees and why. So our trees are planted spaced proportionally depending on their eventual size, the available verge widths and proximity to existing infrastructure, including the utilities and services that exist in the verge. And the city provides the opportunities for residents to request a free street tree, and whereby the city will supply, install and maintain the tree to enable its establishment. But my staff will be happy to reach out to you.
Yeah, but that is not always true. You know,
I'll just have to restrict you to your questions if you don't mind. Sorry,
good.
got a long meeting to get ahead. So I think your next question, Karen, was in relation to verge collections. You just asked about why we're doing that. Go ahead.
Yeah, you had advertised that you're getting bins, but you see, it didn't say free bins. And I know there are quite a few elderly people in our area, and some of them hardly speak English, so they had absolutely no idea, and they were quite distraught why they've heard that they can't put their stuff out anymore. And so if they would have known that they're free bins, they probably wouldn't have been that distraught. But even though I understand why you probably don't want the verge collection anymore, because people make a hell of a lot of mess. I suppose that's one of the main reasons. But so much so-called junk for us probably is a treasure for somebody else. And people kept going up and down the streets and collecting stuff, which helped from all this stuff probably, which has to go in, which mostly goes into landfill, which I think is absolutely horrible. So, but now people can't collect the things anymore, which they might want. I notice that all the time in the street collection, that people going up and down the street and trying to pick up stuff. They can't do that anymore because nobody can jump into one of these bins.
I'll just get Director Bowe just to tell you a little bit about the program. Director Bowe.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Again, the city would be more than happy to help out any of the residents who may have trouble booking the free skip bin service, Ms Kralupa. But the transition to on-demand skip collection model has seen a 75% decrease in waste sent to landfill since its implementation. So far, the service has improved public amenity significantly, public safety, and actually decreased the costs for the community. Residents can still recover unwanted items in a safe and controlled environment as the city operates or works in partnership to deliver the following initiatives: a free bi-monthly repair lab to assist residents to extend the life of their belongings. We offer free recycling of white goods, textiles, e-waste, mattresses, polystyrene, metals and bulk cardboard at our waste transfer station. We promote partnerships with Good Sammy Industries, St Vinny's and Upcycle for Better. We promote community sharing, the Library of Things, the Little Street Libraries, Buy Nothing and Giving with Integrity. But residents who do not have sufficient verge space for a skip collection are encouraged to contact the city. I can provide you with the numbers again. Or the residents are encouraged to take advantage of the 2 free tip passes, which were distributed with all rates notices last year.
So we've been trying as hard as we can to provide a whole range of products that will actually assist everybody in some way. So you're right, not everybody has a verge, as Director Bowe said, to put a bin on. But, you know, I'd like to think, I know what will happen in my street is that neighbours will actually share bins, we'll talk to each other, and when somebody's having a bin delivered, we'll actually make sure that we fill that up and work together to get that done. So it might not always be on your verge. We have had problems, obviously, with, as you would know, people from outside of the area invariably coming in and dumping rubbish on piles already in the city, and it comes at an extraordinary cost. And also the city has about 17 kilometres of river foreshore, much of it through Riverton and Wilson and Ferndale on the pretty much on the banks of the Canning River Regional Park. And during summer, and depending on when the collections are actually made, we've had an incredible amount of waste and refuse blowing into the river. We had to do something. So now we've introduced tip passes for the first time in decades. People can have their white goods picked up for free, mattresses picked up for free. There's a whole range of things we're trialling, but nobody's got, absolutely the ideal situation for everyone. I know some people like to go through the rubbish and that. I hope they might still do that at other councils, but at the City of Canning, we're trialling something a little bit different. So I hope you might support that. And you had just a last question in relation to the bins themselves, and you wanted to know, is it really sorted out? And that's a genuine question. Is it really sorted out, or is a lot of it still going to landfill? I think that was pretty much the...
Yeah, you see, like when you with these plastic bottles, they always say, take them to recycling, and because we want to stop them from landfill. So if I put a plastic bottle in my yellow bin, because some of them they don't take, what's happening with them? Do they go to landfill or are they recycled?
Now, Director Bowe, there have been some issues, haven't there, around FOGO and about different industries within the recycling sector. So if you could provide a hard-hitting, genuine...
Absolutely, Mr Mayor. Unequivocally, the contents of the yellow lid bin that's collected by our waste services go to the materials recovery facility in Canning Vale, which is operated by the Resource Recovery Group, and they're sorted, and those materials that are recyclable are a commodity that the Resource Recovery Group actually sells on to be reprocessed. So I can reassure you that the contents of your yellow lidded bin are recycled. All eligible items are sorted through the recycling process and recovered for reuse. The hard waste collected from our verge, just to circle back to the other concern you had regarding the skip bin service, the hard waste collected via that process is taken to our Ranford Road Resource Recovery and Waste Transfer Station in Canning Vale, operated by the city for further processing, and all eligible recyclables out of the bulk skip bins, such as steel and timber, are recovered, whilst items eligible for reuse are donated to local charities. Thank you.
Thank you. And on that too, yeah, we're trying really hard with that. You might have heard that we're doing, are they bin survey, bin audit? We've had staff in the last 2 years going around incrementally, looking inside people's bins. People don't realise they get a pizza delivered at home. They eat the pizza, got a cardboard box. They put it straight into their yellow bin. That's great. But if they've left all the food scraps in there, and if they've left a lot of the oil and waste and it actually unintentionally, inadvertently, complicates the matter and makes it impossible for us to actually... So it's a matter of education. We're still trying to get that education piece right, but we're working as hard as we can. We're trying to lead the sector in waste disposal. We're really working very hard in that space, but it's tough. Yeah, it is tough.
I know, and thank you very much. I'm a very strong environmentalist, I've always been, so I really like to see that, and I'm trying to educate my neighbours as well, my neighbourhood,
Terrific. Thank you, and thanks for taking the time to come down. It's nice seeing you down here.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night. Anyone else from the audience want to ask a quick question? No? Thank you very much. Then I will officially close public question time at 13 minutes past 6. Thank you very much. I will move to deputations. I do have a deputation here this evening. Did I skip something? I haven't. A deputation has been approved for Mr. Randall Brink. Hi, Mr. Brink. How are you? We had a bit of a...
We've had a discussion.
Bit of a discussion, didn't we? I'm glad that you've popped in.
Thank you.
You wanted to make a quick, and I have a copy of it, deputation in regards to the tender for weed control services. I'm taking it that you're a big supporter of us going ahead with this tender tonight. That might help a bit.
Well, yes. Well, firstly, thanks for giving me the chance, Mayor Hall and council members, to make the discussion tonight. My name's Randall Brink. I live in Iandra Loop in Willetton. I've been a resident since 2006 and I've taken pride in the appearance of my home and my community, and I'm often on the phone to the council talking about illegal parking because I know members, everybody here can't be doing their everywhere at all the time to report things, so I try to help as much as I can. I understand the city can't be, tonight I'd like to highlight the decline of the state of the street verges in my area, which has occurred over a number of years and now become an eyesore at my once neat and tidy streets. I'd like to bring your attention to the agenda item 7.4 on page 101, item 35 and 36, where it says the management of weeds throughout the city parks, streetscapes and natural areas is an important operational component of the infrastructure and environmental program. Program control of weeds within the road reserves and streetscapes helps extend the usable life of streetscape assets such as curbs, pavements, footpaths and drains by preventing and establishing vegetation from cracking and expanding joints and hard surfaces and leaving them open to erosion. So regular care can cause, it will minimise the damage there. So hopefully in the short PowerPoint that I've got here, we'll highlight some of the issues, and I've taken the time to offer some solutions as well that might be advantageous to help make the case move forward to a resolution. This is in Falconer Street, by the way. There's a car parked there. You can see the weeds in the first photo there. They're actually a good 30 centimetres into the road, and they're affecting the water flow as well. And the residents, half the problem is from the residents who don't maintain their verges, and the other, because they're not aware that it's their responsibility, but also to the fact that we don't have street sweepers going around as often. I'll go through some of the slides and you'll see what I mean. These are the areas where I've taken the photos where I walk my dog. So it's a small corner of the city of Canning, but I know it's everywhere. I was talking to Amber tonight. She said it's in Riverton pretty bad as well. So these are the streets listed here. All the council members have got a copy of this PowerPoint too. So you've seen there's been little maintenance done to clean up the weeds and grass growing into the street curbs and gutters and drains, which inhibits the water flow into the drains. Generally, these areas are looking ugly and they're unkept over the whole city of Canning. These issues seem to be a lack of awareness by the culturally diverse residential community, whose English is a second language, who don't understand it's their responsibility to maintain street verges, irregular council maintenance, and it's also been a major contributor. So some residents will mow their lawns, but they don't have edges, so they don't edge the lawns, and the grass actually grows over into the streets. And then when all the refuse starts to build in there, it's with the dirt and everything else, it provides a very good environment for more weeds to grow, impeding the water flow, and it just looks absolutely terrible. I walk along actually now with my dog and I'm pulling up the runners out of the streets just to stop it happening. A little dent in the whole thing. But it's been an ongoing issue for 5 years. It's been going downhill quite steadily with no resolution or way forward. This is some of the streets in my street, actually, Iandra Loop. It's hard to see in the photos there, but some of those weeds are, 60 to 90 centimetres high, growing right over into the street. In this case, it's on the corner of Iandra Loop. I think it's outside number 26. The tree is dead. There's a lot of these grevillea type trees that are dead. The lawns are unkept by the owners and the residents. And it's just adding to the problem for the council as well for maintenance. You can see the length of those weeds that are growing over there now. This is in Darien Drive. And the weeds in the centre post where there used to be trees, the trees weren't replaced. Now we've got a situation where the weeds are growing up. And you can see the height of the post, that's the height of the weeds. This is in Cannington Crescent, where residents have dumped their rubbish on the side of the road and just left it there, and the weeds are growing up with the grass. It's just not kept. Actually, the guy a little bit to the east of that large cypress tree there, he never mows his lawn. Brand new house. Same situation here. It's growing into footpaths and causing the dirt to build up. This here is the whole width of the footpath, and it's over 30 centimetres wide. You can see the grass growing into the verge. So you can't tell me, when I got this called up in Jasmine Loop, I was told that it's not affecting the verge scapes, and it's not an issue that the council will be looking at to fixing. It's not part of their regular maintenance. I'm sorry, but that looks pretty bad. This is Lincoln Park. Guys come along, mow the lawns, and they leave tear-shaped things like that. I would think you'd go around with a mower to make it look a bit neater. That grass is 6 inches high. So that's just not doing your job properly. Again, more grass. That's Falconer Street again. You can see the drains there. That stands nearly up to my thigh, that weed, and it's blocking the drains. Some of the drains are actually blocked by refuse. Again, this is Varland Avenue. The drains are being blocked there. You can see the refuse. So this is at the back of the Willetton Senior High School. pedestrian pathways at the back of the Oval, they're not kept. Refuse builds up. Dead trees in Iandra Loop. More dead trees. The one on the right has actually been removed just recently because I reported it. Again, more refuse on the street. So what can be done? You can't just send a street sweeper because the grass and seeds are firmly embedded. They can be as thick as your thumb into the roads and curbs. So you therefore need to send work teams to the whippersnippers to remove it, then poison the roots. And I had a look at your weed control program there, and I think if I read it right, it's only going to be done every couple of years spraying. I might have read it wrong. If that's the case, it's a waste of time because they grow back within a month. Set up regular street sweeping on a monthly basis. You've got 2 street sweepers. Most of the time they spend getting maintenance done, according to what people I've spoken to in the council. If you kept the street sweepers coming around at least once a month, you'll keep the dirt out of the streets and have the problem solved, apart from the runners, but at least get the dirt out and we will prevent the grass from blocking the drains and the curbs. It'll save money. Simple thing like that. Send mail-outs to the whole of the City of Canning, including the called or culturally, linguistically diverse people in different languages so they understand, and to the rental owners, because there's a lot of rental properties in here. So they know they understand it and understand their responsibilities with regards to verge maintenance. So as I said before, they're breaking down due to limited vehicles for the whole city. Purchasing more sweepers and using them more often will actually save the council, in my belief, a lot of money. Currently, sweepers are sent in my area twice a year. Both times I had to call them. Issue incentives to residents to maintain the verges. Now, Mayor Hall and I had a long discussion about this. They can be vouchers, discounted land rates. A small reward can go a long way, and it won't cost much, a $25 discount to their rates bill, for instance. It's not the whole City of Canning, it's just the people, if they look after their lawns and gardens. Street parties. We spoke about this in the fact that we could have residents get together on a weekend or a date in every month and they help the neighbours either side to clean up the place. As you said before, councils can provide skips for rubbish. Run a best looking verge competition. Winning residents can receive the land rates for free, 50%. I'm just throwing stuff out here, anything. Staff could do the judging from the council on a street by street basis. Lastly, and what we really don't want to have to do is issue penalties if verges are not kept. So my closing comments. Ratepayers who do not look after the verges should not have to pay more for their roads and parks to be maintained. Council cutbacks have actually exacerbated the issue, and lack of maintenance results in an overall increase in labour costs to fix it when it becomes worse due to no regular maintenance. When we had guys come down my street and whippersnipper at my request the weeds away, they left all the refuse on the road. So they just made it worse. Parks and Garden staff are overwhelmed. I've spoken to them. They say they've got so many work they can't keep up with what they need to do. So maybe hire more staff to get the job done. Residents would be happy to pay a little more to get the service they expect. I think in the last 5 years, my rates have gone up about $100. So if we were paying $30, $40, $50 to cover the cost of doing this, I can't see a problem if we're going to have a really nice area, because when I came to Willerton, it was outstanding. So that's the end of my discussion. I hope that the council members, now they can see the actual problem because you're not on the street to see it, that it's becoming a really serious issue, and it's your responsibility to make sure it's fixed. So
Well put. Thanks, Mr. Brinks, for coming down tonight. Look, we don't have a general conversation about it, but council has heard what you've said. I can just say on behalf of council that I would feel that we feel the same as you, that it's important to have pride, civic pride in the area in which we are, and I guess as a council and a local government that we set the tone for what that looks like. I take your point in relation to residents wouldn't mind paying a little bit more. Sometimes we are the second lowest rating council in urban Western Australia in Perth. That does come at a price. Yes, we can have manicured gardens and we can do all of those things, but it does come at an additional cost. But we're about to embark on our budget deliberations. That generally starts at this time of the year and will commence very soon. And I would think that council will be reminded of, I will certainly be reminding them of tonight's deputation and the views that you have. I think they're shared by a lot of people. So I appreciate you coming down and being so eloquent about your delivery. Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Items brought forward for those in the public gallery, none this evening. Reports of committee meetings, there are none. We move on to reports. The first report being from the Office of the CEO, Mr Michael Littleton to my left, to your right. It's OC 003 of 24. The title of that report being Motions Carried at the Annual General Meeting of Electors, 30th of January 2024. The recommendation is currently on screen. Councillors, it also appears on page 6 of the agenda. Are there any questions in relation to that item? Councillor Hardeep Singh, I'll go first, and then Councillor Hearn, was it you? Councillor Hearn? Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is regarding point number 2, where the officer recommendation is notes motion to but does not support the motion to stop the proposed phone tower at Queen's Park Reserve. My question is, what if council supports the motion to stop it? What are the legal implications? Can we do it? And if we do it, what happens next?
CEO.
I think it's a, thank you for the question, Councillor Singh. Look, the council has already made a decision, so it would need to seek to rescind a previous decision of council. So all of those things, there is a clear process around rescission. However, the decision, council has already given effect, or the city has already given effect to council's decision. So in actual fact, I'm going to actually discount what I've just said. Council has given effect to its current decision. So you can't rescind a previous decision of council. You would need to make a different decision. I would argue that given council has made a decision, the city has given effect to that decision, and the proponent has sought to enact and deliver an outcome that the city would be liable would be legally liable should that happen. So the impact of that would need to be determined. It is a hypothetical question. Council hasn't made that determination as yet. I would assume that you would need a fair degree of comfort that there's not some substantial liability in taking that course of action before I took that action.
Councillor Singh.
Thank you, CEO. Just to make it easy for the residents to understand. So it's currently a motion in front of us for the council to either support or reject. The motion was raised as in the general meeting, AGM. If the council supports the motion, then basically what happens next is we could be entering up doors for the telecommunication tower to take us to the court. Is that correct? Is that a likely scenario?
CEO.
I would imagine that it's a likely scenario. Yes, they've expended money. They're actually delivering the outcome. So I think that that there would be a fairly substantial prospect of a legal dispute.
Thank you. Councillor Hearn.
Can the CEO confirm that all the motions brought forward from the annual electors meeting comply with clause 16.2 of the City of Canning Standing Orders and clause 5.26 of the Local Government Act 1995, legislating participation eligibility at electors meetings?
CEO, is that something you'd need to take?
Yeah, I might take that one on notice if that's okay.
We'll
I'll
double
come
check.
back and respond.
Yep. Anything further, councillors? Councillor Bain first, and then Councillor Kunza.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In consideration of motion 2, has the city at any time considered a telecommunications infrastructure policy like the City of Bayswater?
CEO, has that been considered? Oh, Mr. Bride.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. All local governments utilise the state government's state planning policy on telecommunications infrastructure. That's the policy or the direction by the state, and most local governments utilise that policy. There were policies, the city even had a policy going back many years which started to talk about setbacks to sensitive areas, including housing. But that policy that was released by the state government basically said you can no longer have a buffer in relation to residential areas, and you can't consider the health impact. So the state planning policy is the policy that governs this particular land use.
So the state planning policy would have would override anything that we would produce, yep.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just in regard to motion 3, when does the city expect to have a revised version for council's consideration of the cycling and walking plan?
Mr Bowe?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll take that on notice and provide a response to all the elected members.
Thank you. Councillor Bain?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just one more. Paragraph 15 discusses the warrant system. Will that proposed warrant system be some sort of matrix or rubric? What will it encapsulate? What would it look like?
Paragraph 15, Mr Bowe.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. It'll be a multi-criteria assessment matrix, Councillor Bain, inputting various considerations to determine whether or not the path proposal would be supported. Accessibility would be one of those key considerations.
Thank you. Councillor Kunza.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. Through you to Director Bowe with respect to the first part of the recommendation and motion 1, is this on proposed path on Leslie Street already part of the cycling and walking plan?
Director?
No, it is not, Councillor Kunza.
In the past, when residents have raised proposed paths, or this is a local access road on a local distributor roads, it's been advised that it might be considered as part of a review of the city's cycling and walking plan. Why has this been included why is this proposed to be included as part of the 24-25 budget process when it's not currently part of the cycling and walking plan?
Director?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Simply because it was raised and reported through this process for the general meeting of electors, something different. This is what we're recommending to the elected members on the council to include it for consideration in the budget.
Thank you. Anything further? No, thank you, councillors. We'll move on to the next item. The next item is 7.2 CC003 of 24, the responsible officer being Ms Lorraine Driscoll, the Director of Corporate and Commercial. It's proposed right-of-way dedication at lot 66 Mallard Way and Toledo Close in Cannington. Are there any questions in relation to that item? I'll just ask one myself. Director, I just wanted to refer to paragraph 6 where it talks about the next generation of descendants here. What I wanted to just ask was what are the efforts that have actually been made to locate the owners, the rightful owners of the property? I mean, what exactly has the city done?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I can bring you all of the detail for next week's meeting, but they've spent considerable time checking through the records, checking with the relative authorities, looking for any descendants living at current time and haven't.
Have we gone to ancestry.com and all those?
I'll take that one on notice and bring you back the detail.
The only reason I ask is section 52 of the Act, in paragraph 2 of tonight's report, it says that under section 52 of the Land Administration Act 1997, it says that effort must be made to contact the landowner. Section 52 actually, unless I'm mistaken, and I stand ready to be corrected, actually says that all reasonable efforts must be made to contact the landowner. So I hope that all reasonable efforts have been made, and I would expect that with the technology available today, we would do that. I only make the point because Deresley Albert Wood is the former Commissioner of Police for this state and also the former Crown Counsel, I think, for Western Australia. These are important people, and I hope that before we actually resume those right-of-ways, that we have overturned every stone in an attempt to find those descendants.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll ensure we've turned over every stone and bring you back the details before next week's meeting.
If you could let me know which stones we turned over, I'd be very much appreciative. Thank you. Any further questions, councillors, on that item before we move on? Thank you. We shall move on then to the monthly financial report at CC004 of 24. That's the monthly financial report for January in 2024. The recommendation appears on page 17 of the agenda, is also on screen. Have any questions in relation to that item? Yes, Councillor Secon, and then I'll go to Councillor Bain.
Thank you. In reference to page 32, capital expenditure infrastructure asset, Baranda Park North Sports Lighting, can I just clarify if it's complete as it states, project practically complete, profile changed in mid-year budget review?
Ms Driscoll? Oh, Director Bowe.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll confirm that for you, Councillor Second.
We'll come back to you. We'll take that on notice, Councillor. Any further questions? Councillor Bain.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a warrant listing, if I'm happy to take it on notice. 063053, We Are Immersion, Presenter and Speaker Services, $18,900. Thank you.
Could we perhaps, unless somebody knows, can we take it on notice? We'll take that on notice and come back to you. Thank you, Councillor Bain. Any further questions? Thank you. We shall move on then to CC 005 of 24. That's the budget review as at the 31st of January 2024. The officer's recommendation is on screen. An absolute majority will be required for this item when it comes to us next week, and the recommendation is also on page 58 of tonight's agenda. Any questions on the budget review? Councillor Hearn.
I just would like to know if the mid-year budget review is prepared in accordance with full Australian accounting standards.
Sorry, Director Driscoll.
Through you, Mr Mayor, yes, I can.
Just a microphone.
Sorry, through you, Mr Mayor, yes, I can confirm it's prepared in accordance with accounting standards.
Sorry, full Australian accounting standards?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further questions before we move on? Councillor Bain.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Paragraph 12, there's an entry in there for $55,000 for an urban forest engagement officer. Is this a new position or is it a part-time position? What is the role?
Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It is a part-time position. It's a new position also, Councillor Bain, aimed to lead the engagement with the community on our urban forest initiatives, and it's funded through the Urban Forest Reserve.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Bain.
And with just in regard to paragraph 14, the request for additional funds of $179,000 for parkland development. Can we just have some further information about that project for the next meeting, please?
Director.
I do have some information in relation to that to hand, Mr Mayor. It required some further allocations for Cygnet Park, the removal of the additional play pit and landscape restoration, some additional scope through to the Hossack playground, some work to be done at the Hossack basketball court, and the play pit removal at Barracuda Park, as well as an additional $25,000 for the shelter and picnic setting at Shelley Beach Park.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Councillor Bain. Thank you, Councillors. We shall then move to item 7.3, the responsible officer being Mr Graham Bride, the Director of Planning and Development. It's PD 002 of 24. The report title being Proposed Establishment of the Bentley Redevelopment Area. The recommendation on page 81 of the agenda and is on screen. Any questions in relation to the Bentley Redevelopment Area? Councillor Kunza.
Through you to Director Bride. Without prejudice with the request before us, I'm just wondering if you know, Director Bride, how many resources, funding, staff time the city's invested into planning for the Bentley Regeneration Project over the last 10, 15 years, including for the Bentley Regeneration Project Local Structure Plan, LPO 5, only for now the city to be sidelined from the planning process.
Director, I take it that would be no?
Through Mr Mayor, it'd be very difficult to go back in history to work out, but I think suffice to say a fair bit of effort has gone into assessing and being part of all those previous planning instruments that the Department of Communities established in the last 10 to 15 years. So it would be quite a large amount of time.
Anything further, Councillor Kunza? Councillor Hearn, did you have your hand up?
I'd just like to ask, without speculating, what would be the known expected outcomes if council were to reject this motion?
The expected outcome, I think, I might leave it to Director Bride to politely sidestep. I was actually going to say that the outcome would be, I would believe, that like a snowplough, we will be led to the decision irrespective of that, and the decision will be taken out of our hands. So we're being politely asked to provide a position, but I think the position will mean nothing in the final wash. Director, could you say all of that in a more polite manner?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, obviously at the moment the Minister's given Council 30 days to respond to an intention to establish the Bentley redevelopment area. So at the end of the day, the Minister would take into account the city's submission and decide whether to continue to implement that redevelopment area. As the Mayor said, very likely, given the intention and the fact that Development WA are already starting to engage on this project, that the scheme won't be created and the redevelopment area won't be created.
Yes, Councillor Hearn.
Just to clarify for the community who are listening today, I just wanted to clarify what you're saying is that we are being consulted, but it's likely that our decision would have no binding impact on the outcome.
I believe that's the case. That's my honest belief, Director.
Yeah, through Mr Mayor, the Minister would have to consider the Council's view. However, it's very unlikely that they would seek not to implement a redevelopment area, given they've started the process.
And I think then too comes the question of, you know, our own reputation as a council. If we were to make a decision that was essentially only a protest vote, what would be the point of it? We'll discuss that next week, but you know, very relevant questions, Councillor. Thank you. Any further questions, Councillor Singh?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question for the Director. Point 3E, to promote social inclusion by encouraging, where appropriate, a diverse range of housing. Could you please shed some light the range of housing, the type of housing we can expect as part of this project, and any information about how much, any ratios or anything? Just information for the public.
Director Bride, I think Councillor Singh might be alluding to the social housing mix in there. I think I'm getting a nod from Councillor Singh.
Yeah, through Mr Mayor. These objectives are pretty consistent with other redevelopment areas, so they're borrowed straight out of the Metropolitan Redevelopment Act. Certainly, diversity can mean different housing products, so obviously apartments, single homes, townhouses, a whole range of diverse housing typologies, but does also mean a range of affordable and social housing. The state government does have an internal policy that suggests that up to 20% of dwellings in any of their new subdivisions or new state land developments should incorporate 20% social housing ratio. So obviously we've had some discussions early and Council was privy to some of those in relation to not suggesting they have reached that target, but a smaller target, not up to 20%, but certainly around that 13% mark.
Yes, Councillor Singh.
Just a follow-up question, Mr. Mayor. So, Director Bo, roughly, again, roughly because this is still design phase, how many dwellings we are expecting as part of the whole redevelopment project, and just a rough number, how many of those dwellings will be social housing?
Director Bo.
Through Mr Mayor, it would be around about 950 dwellings all up, and I believe around 190 of dwellings are intended to be social housing. That mix and what the master plan looks like, that would be subject to separate consultation with the community. Council will be given an opportunity to comment on that. So at this stage, all we've been asked to consider is the establishment of the area, noting, as in part 4 of the recommendation, Council will be given an opportunity to really get into those issues along with the design of the precinct.
Thank you. Councillor Bain.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Does the city anticipate that security and CCTV systems will be embedded in the design?
Director.
Through Mr Mayor, it's probably too soon or too technical at this stage to really answer that question. So it's probably something if Council feels strongly to raise as part of the master plan development.
Thank you. Councillor Bain.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just regarding the MOU, does the city again anticipate that it'll be responsible for the management of verges and POS and assets upon completion of construction?
Director.
Yeah, through Mr Mayor, certainly once the development is progressed or developed and the city gets handed back those assets, especially the parks that have been established throughout the precinct, they will become the city's responsibility. Obviously, once the road reserves are created, we would still have some authority in relation to the management of those road reserves going forward.
Thank you. Any further questions before we move on? Thank you, councillors. We move to IE 004 of 24, the report being the tender 19/2023 Weed Control Services. Mr Warren Bowe, the Director of Infrastructure and Environment, is a responsible officer. The recommendation is on page 95 of the agenda and is also on screen. Any questions in regards to that particular tender? Councillor Kunza, you have a weed tender question?
Yes, I was just wondering if Director Bowe was intending to provide any commentary in response to the deputation earlier this evening.
Would you like to provide a little bit of...
I would like to take the
been
opportunity
invited to
if
provide
I
some
could,
commentary.
Mr Mayor. Thank you very much. Certainly, the city delivers one service of its 1,241 kilometres of curb line for weed control each year. We provide 2 services annually for mulch, garden beds and other streetscape installations. We've spent about $102,000 each year. Year to date on that particular weed control, those particular weed control initiatives. The idea of purchasing a new street sweeper and operating an additional street sweeper, we've done those calculations previously and estimate the additional cost is around $750,000 each year. They're highly expensive and highly resource hungry to maintain and then to operate as well. By and large, we deliver the service within the budget that we're allocated. It should be noted also that some years ago, our budget for this particular service was almost double. But with the city's initiative since 2021 to remove $3 million of annual operating costs, we've wound back that budget by about half. So that's the level of service that we present currently, and notwithstanding the costs increase that we're anticipating as a result of awarding this tender, subject to council approval, we'll need to absorb those additional costs within the Parks and Environment budget as well.
Yes, Councillor Kunza.
Is there any idea how the City of Canning compares with other local governments in terms of this area?
Director Bowe.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We can obtain some benchmarking data, Councillor Kunza, and we can provide that before next week's meeting.
Thank you. And just lastly, through to Director Bowe, with respect to the tenders provided and noting the confidential nature of it, I'm just wondering through the appropriate means whether you had any comment to provide on the submitted prices. It seemed to be a lot of different variances across, and I was just wondering if you had any commentary that you could provide council. It wasn't just one, it seemed a bit different to me.
Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Firstly, that you're correct, Councillor Kunza, and that's something that I discussed with the staff about the disparity in the submitted prices, some threefold higher than the preferred tenderer. We don't have the ability to go and re-engage with the submitted tenderer to ensure they've got things right. There's sometimes we can see where they've interpreted the scope and possibly not properly accounted for the number or types of services of each particular element or category of the tender. We did notice that and we have reviewed that, but we're not really able to ascertain that. But what we will do, subject to council endorsement of the recommendation next week, is probably go back to the market and just where those outriders or outliers are, probably just try and understand that a bit more.
Thank you. Councillor Bain, and then I'll go to Councillor Page.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I note that both website Weed and Pest WA and Greensteam Australia are both responsible for the management of road reserves, and that Greensteam Australia, obviously the value of their contract is $10,000. How does the city categorise and apply which company will address what road verges and which instances where the application of heat will be ineffective?
Director Bowe.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I might ask our Manager of Parks and Environment or our Service Lead to assist me in answering this one. Councillor Bain, the Category D is offered to the market because there are some residents within the city who choose and request not to have the verges or the paths or the curbs outside their particular properties sprayed with the herbicide. So we use Category D to respond to those specific needs of the community. I may ask Mr Johnson if he might be able to answer the other part of Councillor Bain's question.
Through you, Mr Mayor, can I just clarify, Councillor Bain, are you asking him why is there multiple contractors for each of those categories?
Yes, that's correct, Dion. So we've got website and Greensteam. In the agenda briefing, their responsibilities are outlined, and they're both responsible for the management of road reserves.
Through you, Mr Mayor, as Director Bowe mentioned, we have included Category D into this contract to provide us some flexibility if council and community wish us to do more non-chemical weed control. There's no guaranteed work for non-chemical weed control, and we can bring that in as required, if required.
Thank you. Councillor Page.
Just with these increasing costs, are we anticipating that the upcoming budget that there's going to be a request for Parks Environment to have an increase in their budget?
Director Bowe, is that what you're anticipating at the moment?
The first thing that we will do, Mr Mayor, is look within the broader business area and trying to find the savings and absorb the costs. We're always looking for additional funds, but it's to expand the level of service, not solely because things cost more. And it's too early to tell.
Like an echo in here. Councillor Page, anything further? Happy with that? Any further questions there, councillors? Councillor Secon, yes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just in relation to the deputation today, do we have any stats pertaining to verge and parks management requests by residents?
Director?
By suburb, just to sort of understand how widespread this problem is or not?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. We can obtain those statistics and we can drill down also into the people who've raised them, Councillor Secon.
Thank you, councillors. We'll move on to the next item on tonight's agenda, and that is IE 005 of 24, and that's tender FM 035276 for the construction of Shelley Beach Park Playground. The recommendation is on page 103 of the agenda. It's also on your screens. Thank you, staff. Councillors, any questions in relation to that item? Deputy Mayor Spencer Teo.
Through you, Mr Mayor, if I can just clarify with Director Bowe that the design in the agenda briefing papers is the pre-Lottery West funding design, and the design that will actually be delivered is far better.
Director Bowe, we got the right plan?
I'm happy to confirm that the design in there is the pre-Lottery West funding, Mr Mayor, but we can update and provide some additional graphics for the elected members of what the Lottery West additional funding is likely to present to us.
Just a quick question from me, Director, just in relation to the, I read the probity report and all the items in the report. I didn't see it, I might have missed it. Have we got the names of the directors for the company for the tender? That's okay. Are they in there or they're not in there? They're not.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. They should be in the evaluation report, and as you've previously requested, a summary should be contained in the body of the report, and we will make those amendments prior to next week.
Terrific, that's okay. I just want to make sure that we all know who we're dealing with. Thank you very much, Director. I very much appreciate that. Any further questions from the floor in relation to this matter? None. We shall then move on. Thank you very much, councillors. Thank you, Director. We shall move to the Office of the Director for Customer and Community, and that's Dr. Director Sarah McQuaid. The first item being CO003 of 24, the draft CCTV strategy. The recommendation is now on screen and also appears on page 116. Any questions in relation to the draft CCTV strategy? Councillor Kunza.
Through you, Mr Mayor, to Director McQuaid. Just with respect to the proposed budget, the amount needed, what is the average cost per CCTV unit?
Director.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. As detailed in the council report and also in the strategy itself, the cost varies quite a lot per CCTV unit, so I can't give you an average across it because effectively if we have existing infrastructure, including power, poles, so on and so forth, obviously the costs reduce, but I will direct to Shane Mallard, who might be able to add a little bit more information on that one.
Mr Mallard, are you able to throw any further light on that?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. It works out at the new standards with all those variables at about just over $4,000 per camera. However, that includes everything and the supporting infrastructure, etc. So we try to work out on a per camera basis for budgeting purposes.
Thank you. Councillor Kunza.
And so with the 3 to 5 year timeline and the increase of 150, I know it previously included a budget carryover. Is that proposing to spend 250 a year or 400 a year?
Director.
Through you, Mr Mayor, 250 a year is what we would like to bring the budget up to.
Thank you. Councillor Page, do you have a question? No? Thank you. Any further questions from the floor? Councillor Bain.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Paragraph 21 mentions that the city owns 2 mobile CCTV units. I know in the strategy it says we have 3, which is correct.
Shane, yeah, there's an anomaly in the report. The report says 2, the strategy says 3. Is there a different type of mobile?
Yeah, so through you, Mr Mayor, 2 we own. The third is actually a long-term lease, which we're about to enter into a new one. So the actual correct is 2.
Thank you. Councillor Bain.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. With paragraph 13, the city discusses pre-cabling and site preparation for CCTV. Is that a practice that we've already begun, and is that something that we're looking at incorporating in the Kent Street Weir precinct plan going forward?
Director McQuaid. Oh, Director Bowe.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In short, our major parkland redevelopment projects and our major building redevelopment projects will consider the use of CCTV moving forward.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Page.
Just in relation to 15.1, the measures of success, how often will those measures be presented to council? Once every, annually, biannually?
Director.
At current, we provide updates on an annual basis as to how we're tracking against our community safety. We produce an annual report card. We will intend to produce an annual report card on this front as well.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. We'll move to the next item, which is CO 004 of 24. The title of the report is Community Sporting and Recreational Facilities Fund, the CSRFF, February Small Round Grant, Wyong Park Turf Cricket Practice Nets Development. The officer's recommendation is on screen and also on page 150 of tonight's agenda. Any questions from the floor? Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just through you to Director McQuaid. I tried to read up on the CSRFF small grant round funding guidelines, but it's quite confusing because they do kind of mix it in with the other grants. Is there a limit on how many projects we can put forward for this small grant round?
Director?
No, we only had one in this category ready to go for this one, as we also put up the small lighting projects in the previous small grant round, and then we'll have the over 500,000, which will come to council in about August.
So this small grant round opens again in July. Considering we've got, well, they'd have two grants, one in February, one in July. Considering we've got so many small projects that would qualify for this on an advocacy document, would we be prioritising getting those into CSRFF funding for the next grant round?
Director McQuaid.
We could certainly give consideration to it. We hadn't. This project is ready to go and has a cash contribution, and obviously, as council would be aware, you are required to rank the projects in priority order. So having one does make that a simple process, but we can add others in there. I would need to have a look at that and have a look at where we are in terms of readiness to deliver projects.
Thank you. In that case then, could I get an update on what's happening with the Rossmoyne Netball Club? Because I believe they have a significant cash contribution, but I'm just not sure where we are at with that project, because I would have thought that this would have certainly qualified for this grant.
Director McQuaid, do you know about that one?
I will need to take it on notice. Our recreation team doesn't have great visibility at this stage, but we'll pick up and have a look at that for you.
We'll get back to you on that one. Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? Thank you. We shall then move on to the final report of tonight's meeting, and that's a notice of motion for consideration at the next ordinary council meeting by the Deputy Mayor. The recommendation is on page 156 in the agenda and is also on screen. Any questions from the floor in relation to that final matter? Thank you. We shall then move to item 9, urgent business. There is no urgent business this evening. At item 10, confidential matters, there is nothing to be dealt with under that item for this current meeting. At item 11, closure, there being no further business, I now declare the agenda briefing closed at exactly 7 p.m. and I thank everybody for their attendance. Thank you, everyone.